Many people believe that creativity cannot be taught or learned. Many people say creativity is caught and not taught. But what if I told you that that was false? Now, welcome to episode 3 of Creativity Boost Podcast. I remain your host, Owolabi, and today I'm going to be sharing something really powerful with you. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is something I can call a very effective answer to one of the most frequently asked questions about creativity. And that question is, can creativity be learned? Can creativity be taught? Is creativity limited to inborn talent, inborn gift, or inherent skill? Is this something that just begins to show up in people that have a special ability? In today's podcast, I'm going to debunk all of these myths that surround the questions that I've just thrown at you. So stay right there and don't touch that dial. Now, in order to kick this off, I'm going to tell you a story. In the year 2018, I was invited for a 2-day seminar, and this seminar was tagged Think Outside the Box. Now, I went for this seminar and it was so powerful, it was so interesting. But during my preparation for this seminar, I began to do a lot of research and I began to make inquiries into the subject of creativity. And this was when I first began to notice that there was not sufficient information on the internet on what creativity was truly about. I also discovered that even though there was some pockets of information here and there, they were very unstructured. They were either half-baked truth or full-baked ignorance. And you know what? I believe this is what has contributed to the confusion around the question, can creativity be learned? Can creativity be taught? Well, how can anyone learn it when there's no one to teach it properly? The reason why there seems to be a mystery around creativity is because it has not been properly laid out for people to understand and assimilate in a structured manner. So when you go online, you see a lot of unstructured information about creativity here and there. Some of them are half-baked, some of them are completely false, some of them are full of erroneous conclusions and assumptions. With all of that, you can never really learn what creativity is truly about. And so I believe this is why many people think creativity cannot be learned. This is why many people think that for you to be creative, it just has to be by some chance or by some luck, or people just stumble on their creativity. And so many people do not have a system that will help them to intentionally create stuff, intentionally produce stuff, intentionally display and deploy their creativity. And this is one of the reasons why I took interest in the subject of creativity. Because many people have gone to their graves with their talents, skills, gifts, experience, expert knowledge because they lack creativity. Now, creativity is that special source that helps you put your knowledge, your experience, your skills, and your talent together in a unique manner, in a unique combination, in order to produce something that the world has never seen before. You can have knowledge, you can have skill, you can have talent, but when you lack creativity, you may actually not be able to produce anything. You may actually not be able to create anything. And that is where the problem lies. And that is why many people are headed for the cemetery with their gifts, skills, and ideas dormant, suppressed, forgotten, or unrecognized because they have not been taught properly what creativity is about. Now, in today's podcast, I'm going to be helping you understand that creativity can actually be learned because creativity is a skill. I'm also going to be showing you how creativity can be learned. And then I'm going to be giving you different reasons why creativity can be learned, why creativity can be taught, and why creativity is not as mysterious as many people make it out to be. I believe that creativity can be taught and can be caught. And that's one of the primary purposes of Creativity Boost Podcast. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this podcast. Click the follow button. Maybe you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. whatever your situation is, I want to encourage you to subscribe and anticipate weekly episodes from me on creativity that will help you boost your creativity, that will help you transform your ideas, skills, gifts, and talents into tangible creations and profitable solutions. So whether you want to create a book, an app, a business, a brand, a powerful movement, whatever it is that you feel you're called to create or you are destined to produce, I've got you covered. Now, like I said before, many people believe that creativity can only be caught by impartation or by inspiration and cannot be taught in an intentional manner. Interestingly, I used to think so too, until I discovered for myself that creativity is a skill that can be learned, just like driving. Now, I'm going to use this analogy. When an individual is learning how to drive, he or she gets to go through some degree of training and tutoring, and the person who teaches him or her tells him, oh, press that pedal, touch this button, move this way and go that way. And before long, that person becomes a decent driver. And if that person does it long enough, that person becomes an expert at driving. In much the same way, you can harness your creativity and master your creativity. And that's the whole idea of Creativity Boost podcast. My mission is to help you master the business of your creativity. Now I'm going to tell you 3 powerful truths about creativity that confirms my understanding of the fact that creativity can be taught, learned, in as much as it is something that can be caught or imparted. So by following Creativity Boost podcast, you get 2 things. You get to catch the spirit of creativity, and then you get to be taught the principles and the system of creativity in a way that you can replicate it in your daily life. So essentially, you're getting 2 for the price of 1 with this podcast, making you a master in your creative space and helping you master the business of your creativity. How does that sound? Now I'm going to share with you 3 facts about creativity that further buttresses my stand on the fact that creativity can be taught and can be learned. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that creativity is a skill. And just the way you teach a skill to anyone, and that person through practice becomes good at that skill, creativity can be taught to anyone, including a dummy, including someone who was tagged a dummy. And why do I say so? I'll tell you about the story of Ben Carson. Ben Carson is a renowned neurosurgeon who, in his early stage of development, when he was in the 5th grade, he was called a dummy in class. Now, the irony of this is that Ben Carson himself actually believed that he was a dummy because his results were not saying otherwise. Ben Carson went through a phase of self-discovery when his mother helped him to develop a regimen, a system for learning that entailed him reading books that were beyond the scope of his traditional school curriculum. And as Ben Carson applied himself, he began to make connection between different things that he read in those books, and he began to catch the spirit of creativity and discover patterns between the different concepts that he was learning about. And before long, Ben Carson went on to become the chief of pediatric neurosurgery at the age of 33. Wow. Now, this was the guy who was called a dummy. How did a young boy who was tagged a dummy in 5th grade grow to become the man with the gifted hands? A feat that speaks simply of creativity. Now, that goes to show you that even if you do not have the natural intelligence or the natural inherent ability that comes with people who are talented, you can develop your creativity in anything that you put your mind to if you understand the systems. To further buttress my point, I'm going to share something that happened to me some years back. Now, it was around the thick of the winter several years ago, and on this particular day, my car was parked outside my apartment. I had forgotten to plug my car to the block heater to keep it warm, because that's the practice usually when you have to park your car outside under the thick of the winter, extreme winter of minus 30 degrees and beyond. The best way to protect the fluids in the car is to plug it in to keep it warm. But on this particular day, I had forgotten to plug the car in. Now, as I came out the next day wanting to use my car, the battery would not start. I was confused because it was the thick of the winter. The weather was so harsh on that particular day, and I was so cold that I could not feel my ears, I could not feel my hands. I didn't know what to do because the car would not start. I didn't know who to run to because in order to get help, I needed to be able to drive or get around. Now, something happened after making frantic efforts to get my car working again. After several hours of waiting and hoping and wishing that my car would start by some streak of luck or by some miracle, someone whose car was parked right next to me came by and offered to help. Now, how did he help me? This is the big part of the story. He had a device that he brought from inside his car, and then he plugged it to my battery, and then he asked me to start my car. And immediately I started my car came back to life. He jump started my battery. He boosted my battery with the device he had. Now, he showed me how to do it, and then he gave me the name of that device. Now, after that event, I had learned by experience to help other people boost their batteries. So whenever I found people who were stranded, I became equipped to help them to also boost their batteries. Now, your creativity is like that battery. Everyone has creativity in them. Everyone has the capacity to be creative, but until you activate that creativity, you will not manifest your creativity and you will not move from idea to creation. So, what I'm trying to say in essence is that creativity can be taught just like any skill that we know. Of course, creativity is a soft skill, and so soft skills sometimes are difficult to teach, but that does not rule out the fact that creativity is teachable. Now, the second fact I'm going to share with you is that the Bible shows us different instances where God actually taught people how to be creative. God actually walked people through the creative process. Now, God is the author of creativity. In fact, when God first introduced himself to humanity, he did not introduce himself as the savior. He introduced himself as the creativity God. And how do I know that? In the book of Genesis chapter 1 and in verse 1, the Bible says that in the beginning, God displayed creativity. The very first attribute that God displayed to mankind was his creativity. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, if you study the book of Genesis 1 and study where God brought man into being and said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, it shows you that God also made man to share in his likeness with respect to creativity. And how do I know that? The very first thing that God said to man after creating man was be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. Now that speaks of productivity, and productivity is a component of creativity. So by implication, when God was speaking to man, the first thing God tried to activate in man with his words was to impart creativity to man. And remember that words are spirits. So by those words, the spirit of creativity was transferred into man. Now, in the book of Genesis also, we see how God taught Noah how to build an ark. Now, the art and science of building an ark, when you did not go to a construction school to learn how to build an ark, speaks of creativity. But Noah did not dream up the design of an ark from thin air. God actually taught him how to design the ark. God showed him what to build. God showed him the design of what to build, why he was building it. God taught him how to build it. God also showed him the materials that he should use, the kind of wood that he should use, even up to the measurements that he was going to use in constructing and building and manufacturing, making and creating that ark. God taught Noah. Now, if God teaches us creativity, it means creativity can be taught. And if creativity can be taught as shown by God, the author of creativity, it means creativity can be learned. But for creativity to be learned, you have to have the right source and listen to people who truly understand creativity. Now, say this after me. I am creative, and my creativity is active. I refuse to allow my ideas, my skills, my talents, and my gifts to be dormant, hidden, or forgotten. I choose to manifest my creativity because God has imparted in me the ability to create. And as I learn about creativity, my creative capacity is enlarged. I master the art and science of creativity, and I master the business of my creativity. Thank you for saying that with me. Now, the third fact I'm going to share with you about creativity is this. You can have talent and not be creative. You can have talent and not be creative. Having talent is not a guarantee of creativity. You can have a gift and not be creative. I've met people who have gifts. I've met people who have fantastic ideas, but they are not creative when it comes to implementing those ideas. They are not creative when it comes to deploying their gifts. So having talent, having ideas, having gifts does not make you creative. That's why you need to learn how to manifest your creativity. Because you have the capacity to create in you, but until you activate that creativity, just like that dead battery that I told you about that have been out in the cold, until you boost that creativity inside of you, you may never manifest your creativity. And this brings me to the parable of the talent. Now, the parable of the talent is a very graphic illustration of the fact that having talent is not enough. In the parable of the talents, there were 3 servants. One was given 5 talents, one was given 2 talents, one was given 1 talent. And the Bible records that they were all given talents according to their several abilities. The one who had the 5 talents went and did business with it and reproduced 5 talents with the 5 talents he had. The one that had 2 talents went and did something productive with it and came back with extra 2 talents. Now the one that had 1 talent was afraid and he went and he hid his talent. And that's how many people are today. They have not been taught, and because of that ignorance, they are scared to manifest their creativity. And so they go and they bury their gift, they bury their talent because they want to blend in with the society, or because they want to please someone, or because they don't want to do something that will take them out of their comfort zone. And that was how the servant that had 1 talent hid his talent. Now, many people hide their talent, and that's why they are not creative. If you're listening to me today and you have a talent, a gift, an idea, a skill that you're hiding for one reason or the other, I challenge you to go dig it up from where you buried it and manifest your creativity. Learn about ways that you can deploy that idea, gift, skill, or talent and productize it in a way that you can grow that talent, grow that skill, and grow that idea into something profitable or something tangible. That way, you'll be able to manifest your creativity. So I believe that everyone has the capacity to be creative, but not everyone has been properly taught how to manifest their creativity. And so some people stumble on it and they stumble on being creative, while some people never ever discover their creative edge. Now, say this with me. I refuse to bury my idea, skill, gift, or talent by reason of fear or self-doubt. I dig up my dormant ideas, suppressed skill, or hidden talent today, and I declare that from now henceforth, I'll go and manifest my creativity in every way possible. Now, thank you for joining me to make that declaration. Right now, you can pause this podcast, go grab a notepad, or launch the Note app on your phone, or whatever device you have close to you, as I dish out this exercise to you. And I want to encourage you to participate in this exercise. Now, the first exercise I have for you is this. What skill would you like to develop and nurture in order to enhance your creativity? The second exercise is this. What courses, program, or books do you need in order to develop your creative skills? Now, the third exercise I have for you is what time do you intend to set aside to practice and manifest your creativity? And the fourth exercise I have for you is what mentors, friends, or colleagues can you learn from as you develop your creative skill? Before I go, I'm going to give you a quick recap of what we learned today. We learned that creativity can be taught and can be learned just like any other skill. We learned that you have the ability to be creative, but you need to boost that ability. You need to activate that ability. We learned that your creativity is not limited to inborn talents or intrinsic gifts. And then we also learned that God displayed creativity, God imparted creativity, and God taught creativity. Therefore, creativity can be taught and can be caught. Now, this is where we draw down the curtain for today's episode. Thank you for joining me and see you in episode 4.